everybody, Miss Roberts here for day 2 of Afternoon on the Amazon. We just landed the treehouse in the Amazon, and we are starting chapter 3. Yikes! Doesn't sound good, but we'll see how this goes. Jack opened his eyes. The air was hot and steamy. It looks like we landed in some bushes, said Annie. She was peeking out of the treehouse window. Peanut was peeking out of Annie's pocket. Jack peeked out of the treehouse too. They had landed in a sea of shiny green leaves. Outside there were flowers, bright butterflies, and birds just like in the book. That's strange, said Jack. I wonder why we didn't land in a tree. The way we always do. I don't know, said Annie, but let's hurry and find the thing that... I swear I do that in the beginning of every time. But let's hurry and find the thing for Morgan so we can get back home before we meet any big bugs. Wait, this seems weird, said Jack. I don't understand why we landed in bushes. I'd better read about this. Oh, come on, said Annie. We don't even need a ladder. We can just climb out of the window. Annie put Peanut in her pocket. She stuck one leg out the window. Wait! Jack grabbed Annie's other leg. He read, "The rainforest is in 3 layers. Thick treetops, often over 150 feet in the air, make up the top layer. This is called the forest canopy. Below the canopy is the understory, then the forest floor." "Get back in here," cried Jack. "We're probably more than 150 feet above ground in the forest canopy." "Yikes," said Annie. She slipped back into the treehouse. "We have to use the ladder," Jack said. He got on his hands and knees. He moved the leaves away from the hole in the floor. He looked down. The ladder seemed to fall between the branches of a giant tree, but Jack couldn't see beyond that. "I can't tell what's down there," he said. "Be careful." Jack put the rainforest book in his backpack. Then he stepped onto the rope ladder. He started down. Annie followed with Peanut in her pocket. Jack pushed through the leaves. He came to the understory below the canopy. He looked down at the forest floor. It was very far away. "Oh man," whispered Jack. This world was completely different from the one above the treetops. Now that they were out of the sun, it was cooler. It was also damp and very quiet. Jack shivered. It was the spookiest place he had ever seen. Chapter 4. Millions of them. I don't think millions of anything sounds good in the rainforest. It sounds quite scary. Jack didn't move. He kept staring down at the forest floor. "What's wrong?" Annie called from above. Jack didn't answer. "You don't see any giant spiders, do you?" Annie said. "Well, no." Jack took a deep breath. "We have to keep going," he thought. "We have to find the special thing for Morgan." "No spiders, nothing scary," Jack called, and he started down the ladder again. Jack and Annie climbed down through the understory. Finally, they stepped onto the forest floor. Only a few rays of light slanted through the gloom. The trees were very, very, very tall and wide. Vines and moss were hanging everywhere. The ground was covered in dead leaves. "Before we do anything, I'd better check the book," said Jack. He pulled out the rainforest book. He found a picture of the dark world under the treetops. He read, "In the rainforest, many creatures blend in with their surrounding. This is called camouflage." "Oh man," said Jack. He closed the book and looked around. "There are tons of creatures down here. We just can't see them." "Really?" whispered Annie. She and Jack peered around at the quiet forest. Jack felt unseen eyes watching them. "Let's hurry and find the special thing," whispered Annie. "How will we know when we find it?" Jack said. "I think we'll just know," said Annie. She headed off through the gloom. Jack followed. They crept between the huge trees and past hanging vines. Annie stopped. "Wait, what's that?" "What's what?" "Listen, that weird sound." Jack listened. He heard a crackling sound. It sounded like people were walking over the leaves. Jack looked around. He didn't see anyone, but the sound got louder. Was it an animal? A giant bug? One that had never been seen before? Just then, the silent forest came alive. Birds took off into the air. Frogs hopped over the leaves. Lizards ran up the tree trunks. The weird noise grew louder and louder. Maybe the book explains it, said Jack. He opened the book. He found a picture of different animals running together. He read, "When animals hear a crackling sound, they flee in panic. The sound means that 30 million flesh-eating army ants are marching through the dead leaves." It gives me the heebie-jeebies. "It's army ants," cried Jack. "Millions of them!" "Where?" cried Annie. Jack and Annie looked around wildly. "There," Annie pointed. Army ants, millions and millions of them, were marching over the leaves. "Run to the treehouse," cried Annie. "Where is it?" said Jack, whirling around. All the trees looked the same. "Where was the rope ladder?" "Just run!" cried Annie. Jack and Annie took off. They ran over the dead leaves. They ran between the wide tree trunks. They ran past the hanging vines and mosses. They climbed over thick roots. Jack saw a clearing ahead. It was filled with sunlight. "That way!" he cried. Jack and Annie hurried toward the light. They pushed their way through the bushes. They burst onto the riverbank and stared at the slow-moving brown water. "Do you think the ants will come this way?" Annie said, panting. "I don't know," said Jack, "but if we wade a few feet into the river, we're safe. The ants won't go into the water. Come on." "Look," said Annie. She pointed at a big log rocking at the edge of the river. The inside of the log was dug out. "It looks like a canoe," said Jack. He listened for the crackling sound in the distance. "Let's get in it quick." Jack shoved the book into his backpack, and then he and Annie carefully climbed into the dugout log. Annie leaned out of it. She pushed away from the bank with her hands. "Wait," said Jack. "We don't have paddles." "Oops," said Annie. The canoe started moving slowly down the muddy river. And we will have to find out what happens down the river tomorrow, because that is the start of chapter 5. I hope you have a wonderful Tuesday, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.